Chapter 403. It was normal for princes to dislike each other, but it was rare for them to curse like this. Even if they wanted to curse, they would curse behind someone's back. However, it was rare to curse in front of someone's face, not to mention that the person being cursed was the crown prince. Zhu Zhu's curse made the princes on Zhu Xingqing's side very surprised, but Zhu Yun's side was much more normal. Zhu Zhu, do you know the crime of cursing this crown prince? If you have the guts, try cursing again. Zhu Xingqing's face didn't look good, after all, it was in front of so many people. Crime. Isn't it just losing your head? This daddy is cursing you, Zhu Xingqing, you bastard. Damn Zhu Xingqing, even if this daddy becomes a ghost, I will kill you. Zhu Xingqing, you bastard, this daddy will kill your whole family. All kinds of curses started to attack Zhu Xingqing, which made him feel that something was wrong, but he didn't care. Instead, he suspected that this was a trap. Zhu Yun, I didn't expect that this year, there will be no sneak attacks or open attacks, but a war of words. Zhu Xingqing couldn't help but mock them. He planned to kill a few to show his strength, then beat up the rest to let them know that this crown prince wasn't someone to be trifled with. Zhu Yun coldly laughed. Zhu Xingqing, what kind of stupid thing did you do? Don't you have any idea? Do you know how many people you will kill? Zhu Xingqing's heart sank. He couldn't help but think about what happened a few days ago. Could it be that other than Che Hongliang, Zhu Yun also knew? It must be Che Hongliang who told him. Damn, they are all despicable people. It seems like this person can't be left alive today. Hearing Zhu Yun's words, coupled with the attitude of the princes, Zhu Di was puzzled, feeling that something was wrong. The princes behind were also discussing in low voices. After all, the princes weren't fools. Could it be that something really happened? What did this crown prince do that angered even the gods? Crown prince, what do you think? Zhu Di asked, seemingly wanting to hear the crown prince's explanation. This made Zhu Xingqing very unhappy. Zhu Di. What kind of attitude is this? Are you questioning this crown prince? I don't dare. Judith hurriedly said. However, she was a little unhappy in her heart. Yelling at her in front of so many princes was not giving her any face at all. Zhu Yun suddenly laughed, then became more and more crazy, making everyone think that Zhu Yun was stupid. Ha ha ha. You're all going to die, ha ha ha. We are all going to die, ha 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 ha. Following this crazy laughter, Zhu Yun's faction couldn't help but laugh, but there were also people who cried. Zhu Xingqing's people were all very surprised. It was fine if one of them was crazy, but all of them had gone crazy. Could it be that they had been bewitched? Moreover, for them to say such words, it was very puzzling. Zhu Xingqing looked on coldly, and a wave of anger rose in his heart. This laughter seemed to be mocking him. Beat him up. If he dies, it's on me. Zhu Xingqing, who had flown into a rage out of humiliation, seemed to have gone mad as well. The princes behind him were also very obedient. They immediately rode their horses over and started a one-sided beating. At the end of the day, they didn't really dare to kill him. In the past, there were times when they failed, but those were normal fights between the two sides. But this time, Zhu Yun and the others from the prince's faction didn't fight back at all. They were still laughing and crying when they were beaten. This made the princes who were fighting stop. Something was not right. You guys are really noisy. The sudden voice caused all the princes to be stunned for a moment. They immediately looked over, their eyes were filled with doubt and greed. Of course, Zhu Yun's side was filled with the fear of impending death. Although Zhu Xingqing didn't like this kind of thing, when he saw such a cute little girl, he couldn't help but have some thoughts. Yi Zizi sat on the spirit goat's back, sizing up the group of princes. Sucking them should be very enjoyable. Little sister, where did you come from? Are you lost? Zhu Jingqing jumped down from his horse, revealing a warm smile. Yi Zizi also revealed a sweet smile. Little brother, are you Zhu Jingqing? Zhu Jingqing paused, then immediately smiled. That's right, I am Zhu Jingqing, the current crown prince. That's good. Yi Zizi's sweet smile instantly turned dark, causing everyone to feel that something was wrong. Bang! 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 3 loud sounds shook the sky, and 3 corpse Kuan drilled out from the ground. Those thick, long, and huge bodies surrounded everyone. Their huge heads stared at everyone from 3 directions, and the mucus dripping from the corners of their mouths corroded the grass. This is a vicious beast. It's a corpse Kuan. Heavens! How could a corpse Kuan appear in Changlin? This is impossible. The princes on Zhu Jingqing's side could not remain calm, and pulled out their swords, looking at the 3 huge corpse Kuan in fear. All dead. All dead, ha 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 ha. Zhu Yun laughed maniacally. Yi Zizi pouted, so noisy. A strand of hair with a sharp wind drilled into the back of Zhu Yun's head, and the laughter immediately stopped. His whole body began to twitch, and in the blink of an eye, he was reduced to skin and bones. This sudden change caused all the princes to be dumbfounded. Who was this little girl? Who are you? Zhu Jingqing had no other thoughts, and his face immediately changed. With 3 corpse Kuan looking down on him, if he could still remain calm, then he was not an ordinary person. Yi Zizi jumped down from the spirit goat, and took small steps. Zhu Jingqing, don't you know who I am? Seeing that Yi Zizi was approaching him step by step, Zhu Jingqing unconsciously retreated, and soon after, his butt fell onto the ground. This made him think back to 3 days ago. How could there be such a person in that kind of low-level world, with such strength, and to even be able to control 3 corpse Kuan? Yi Zizi swept her gaze across everyone, then said with a smile, I am not only targeting Zhu Jingqing, I am also targeting everyone here. Because of him, all of you are going to die. Everyone finally understood why Zhu Yun went crazy. Seems like he already knew that he was going to die. Crown Prince, aren't you going to give us an explanation? Zhu Di was still rather calm, and he shouted out towards Zhu Jingqing. No. I don't know anything. Zhu Jingqing didn't even think too much and immediately jumped onto his unicorn, then ran away madly, and even ran past the corpse Kuan. Everyone thought that Zhu Jingqing was going to die, and he was going to die very miserably. But nothing happened. Those corpse Kuan didn't pay attention to Zhu Yun, and that little girl also didn't pay attention to Zhu Yun. Zhu Jingqing ran away just like that. When some princes saw that even the crown prince ran away and didn't get injured, they began to imitate Zhu Yun and immediately got onto their unicorn and ran away. Yi Zizi grinned, and several strands of hair flew into the sky. Those princes who were riding on the unicorn were instantly pierced through the back of their heads, and all of them hung in the sky. I said, all of you are going to die. With a cruel smile on her face, Yi Zizi began sucking the blood essence of the gods. Chapter 404. I like it. Yi Zizi said softly. Her twin ponytails immediately flew up, and countless strands of hair silently pierced through the back of everyone's head. Only Zhu Di didn't. Her black hair gradually turned blood red, and a layer of crimson appeared on Yi Zizi's face. She even closed her eyes in intoxication. Zhu Di looked at the scene in front of her and felt that her heart was about to stop. The hand that was holding onto the sword trembled intensely. Why am I not dead? Why is she keeping me alive? In the blink of an eye, other than Zhu Di, all of the princes turned into skin and bones, just like a layer of paper stacked together. I haven't felt so good for a long time. Too amazing. You're amazing. Yi Zizi was so excited that even her sweet voice changed, becoming deep and ghostly. Because she was too excited, that cute face looked especially sinister. After a long time, Yizizi calmed down and returned to normal. I am not like that usually. Zhu Di, you don't need to explain, you are just like that. That was your true appearance just now. You devil. Licking the corner of her lips, Yizizi let out a sweet voice, you can go. Zhu Di was confused, why did she let me go? I heard that devils like to see their enemies running away and enjoy that instant of pleasure before killing them to satisfy their perverted psychological needs. Could it be that this little girl is the same? If you don't go, I will also suck you. Yizizi snorted lightly. Zhu Di didn't dare to think too much. Running away was better than being sucked, at least there was a trace of hope. Just like that, Yizizi looked at Zhu Di running away and didn't chase after her. Zhu Di, who was running away, felt very heavy in her heart. If her body turned cold and her head was removed, she would definitely not be surprised. However, after running for a period of time, nothing actually happened. Seems like the other party really let me go. I immediately heaved a long sigh of relief. Yizizi took in a deep breath and yawned. She jumped onto the spirit goat and started to head towards the direction where the two ran away, because there was still something that she hadn't announced yet. As for why she let Zhu Di go, this was also Yizizi's sudden change of mind. Although she let Zhu Zhenqing go, Yizizi felt that she couldn't let him have it too easy. If she let another person go and told the truth about the situation here, that crown prince would probably panic. If Yi Hua knew that Yizizi had such a mind, he would definitely be very gratified. Yizizi was no longer that little girl who only knew how to suck up humans. Right now, she had also become courageous and resourceful, and was able to destroy the enemy from within. The imperial guards were stationed outside the temporary courtyard. As the commander, Wu Ma Chao was patrolling to see if there were any signs of enemies. His bright eyes were looking at Chong Lin, who was not far away. Suddenly, Wu Ma Chao's gaze focused. A horse ran out of the forest. Open the door. Hurry up and open the door. Zhu Zhenqing, who was on the horse, shouted in a panic. Wu Ma Chao shouted, open the door. Zhu Zhenqing, who was running at top speed, suddenly felt weak and fell off his horse. When the soldiers saw the crown prince fall off his horse, they rushed over. Wu Ma Chao walked over with a puzzled expression. Your Highness. Water. 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 Zhu Zhenqing's face was slack and his eyes were filled with deep fear. A soldier took the water bottle, and Zhu Zhenqing took it and drank it. After drinking the water, he calmed down a little. Wu Ma Chao asked in a deep voice, Your Highness. Where are the other princes? Dead. They're all dead. Zhu Zhenqing murmured. He looked like he was quite frightened. Hearing Zhu Zhenqing's answer, Wu Ma Chao's expression tightened. He asked, Your Highness. This matter cannot be joked about. What happened? Monster. They're all monsters. They're all dead. Zhu Zhenqing yelled at Wu Ma Chao. Wu Ma Chao's expression darkened. He immediately shouted, Pass down my order. All troops, be on guard. Report. Prince Zhu Di has returned. A soldier quickly came over to report. Not long after, Zhu Di rode his horse back with a gloomy expression. He jumped off his horse and looked at the exhausted Zhu Zhenqing. Wu Ma Chao frowned. The crown prince had said that everyone was dead. How could there still be someone alive? He walked forward and asked, Prince Zhu Di, what happened? Zhu Di, with an obscure expression, walked past Wu Ma Chao towards Zhu Zhenqing. He lowered his head to look at the person who should have died and raised his fist. Bang! This fist ruthlessly landed on Zhu Zhenqing's face. Wu Ma Chao was stunned. Zhu Di was Zhu Zhenqing's trusted aide. He was like his own son. What was happening today? Wu Ma Chao didn't expect things to turn out like this. He immediately pulled back the rampaging Zhu Di. Prince. You'll get into trouble like this. Beating up the crown prince was a serious crime. Moreover, there were so many people watching. Don't pull me back. I'm going to kill this animal today. Zhu Di felt a wave of lingering fear when he thought about what had just happened. Although he had helped the crown prince, that was only a power struggle. However, this was related to the safety of the empire, and he had crossed the line. That little girl had killed all the princes. He wouldn't let her off so easily. Following Zhu Di's curses, all the soldiers were shocked. This Prince Zhu Di dared to insult the crown prince. Did he not want to live anymore? Zhu Jingqing, who had been punched, seemed to wake up. He stood up and gave the prince a kick. Motherf asterisk cur, I'll kill you. Zhu Jingqing coldly shouted. Wu Ma Chao immediately gave the order to separate the two and bring them to see the emperor. Right now, Zhu Qingxian was currently pampering an imperial concubine. Right when he was about to do it, a voice sounded out from outside the door. Your Majesty, the crown prince and the princes have started fighting. Zhu Qingxian was originally very excited, but when he heard what the emperor said, he immediately lost all interest. Zhu Qingxian stood up, and that imperial concubine's face was filled with hidden bitterness. Just a little bit more. After arriving at the front hall, Zhu Qingxian looked at his two sons and asked gravely, what happened to the two of you? You even caused a ruckus here. Father Emperor. Zhu Jingqing caused a huge ruckus. Zhu Di knelt onto the ground. Before Zhu Jingqing could say anything, a soldier hurriedly rushed in. Fear could be seen on the soldier's face as he said, Your Majesty. A little girl appeared in Chonglin, she. Hearing the word little girl, Zhu Jingqing and Zhu Di's expression immediately changed. What happened to her? Zhu Qingxian asked gravely. She kidnapped all the princes. What? Zhu Qingxian suddenly stood up and shouted out. The might of an emperor immediately spread out. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, please calm your anger. Let me go and take a look. I will go with you. The two of you, kneel here. After finished speaking, the emperor didn't even look at his two sons and walked out of the front hall with Wu Ma Chao. Chapter 405. Behind Yizizi, the three corpse Khans stood upright. Their enormous bodies emitted a tyrannical aura that soared to the heavens. Although the soldiers stationed outside the courtyard stood firm, their bodies were trembling. They had never seen such a scene before. After all, they were only the guards of the imperial palace. They were only responsible for the safety of the imperial palace, and there had been no casualties in the imperial palace for the past 1,000 years. Some of the family members of the princes in the courtyard seemed to have received some news. Then, seeing the emperor hurriedly walk out, they all followed him out to observe the situation. When Zhu Qingxian and Wu Ma Chao stood on the temporary stone wall, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. Hundreds of princes were suspended in mid-air, their faces filled with terror and terror. Zhu Qingxian gripped the wall tightly with both hands, his eyes filled with anger. Those were his sons. That's a corpse Kuan, a vicious beast from outside the border. Not a single one has appeared in 1,000 years, but now 3 have appeared. How is this possible? Wu Ma Chao muttered with fear in his eyes. Having guarded the border for many years, he understood this kind of vicious beast the best. It was incomparably brutal. At that time, he was still a young man. He had followed his father and encountered the corpse Kuan once. That battle had resulted in countless casualties before the corpse Kuan was repelled. However, his father was heavily injured and passed away in the last few years. It could be seen how powerful this vicious beast was. Zhu Qingxian calmed down and shouted in a deep voice, Who are you? Why are you capturing this emperor's sons? Hurry up and let them go. No, Yi Zizi mumbled as she sucked on her lollipop. Why did this sentence sound so helpless and infuriating? Zhu Qingxian was infuriated. His words were like a sharp blade stabbing into his chest. Go save this emperor's son. Where is the heavenly master? Where is my heavenly master? Your Majesty, the celestial master is ill and did not come, Wu Ma Chao said in a deep voice. Ying Wei did not come. It was obvious that he was dissatisfied with the emperor. Your Majesty, calm down. This is a corpse koan, you can't act rashly. Otherwise, the consequences will be unthinkable. Wu Ma Chao tried his best to persuade them. This small number of people wouldn't even be enough to fill the gaps between the corpse koan's teeth. This emperor's child. The princes struggled helplessly in midair. They looked at their father on the stone wall and stretched out their hands. This was a son's plea to his father for help. Father, please save your son. Imperial father, I don't want to die. I didn't participate in the power struggle. I don't want to die. The princes' wives were also standing on the stone walls. When they saw their husbands, they couldn't help but cover their faces in disbelief. Some even cried loudly, and some even knelt behind Emperor Zhu Qingxian, begging him to save their husbands. They were all innocent. Hey, are you the emperor? Yi Zizi shouted at Zhu Qingxian. Zhu Qingxuan's breathing was rapid, but he had calmed down a little. I am. Yi Zizi licked her lollipop. I finally found you. The reason why I came here today is to pass on his honor's decree. Your honor. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. How did they provoke a supreme being? Is there some kind of misunderstanding between us? Zhu Qingxuan's anger subsided a lot as he asked. Just ask the crown prince and you'll know. Yi Zizi slowly floated in the air and flew towards Zhu Qingxian. The princes in the air also hovered over. What are you trying to do? Wu Ma Xiaohu shouted in front of Zhu Qingxian. Yi Zizi retracted her smile and said coldly, according to his honor's decree, you have 3 days to prepare. 3 days later, his honor will come here and bathe the imperial city in blood. As soon as she finished speaking, hundreds of princes violently twitched and instantly turned into skin and bones. All the generals were stunned. They couldn't even muster the will to resist. This was not a fight on the same level. Zhu Qingxuan's eyes were bloodshot as he watched his son die in front of him. He clenched his fists tightly, and the princes' wives all cried until they fainted. Yi Zizi sucked on her lollipop again. 3 days. Hurry up and bring out your strongest abilities. Don't disappoint his honor. Goodbye. After she finished speaking, she revealed a cute smile and disappeared into the air. The 3 corpse koan drilled into the ground and disappeared without a trace. However, they were still hidden dangers. Zhu Qingxian looked at the skin and bones on the ground. His head was dizzy, and his body fell backwards. Your Majesty. Wu Ma Xiaohu hurriedly supported him. Zhu Qingxian grabbed Wu Ma Xiaohu's arm. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was distorted. Go back. I need to properly interrogate that unfilial son. On top of the stone wall, everyone was crying. The soldiers' bodies were stiff, and they didn't even have the strength to lift their legs. Outside, hundreds of skin and bones were scattered. The scene was shocking. This made everyone realize a problem. In front of absolute power, even the imperial family had no way to resist. Zhu Qingxian hurriedly walked towards the hole. His expression was frighteningly gloomy. Behind him, Wu Ma Xiaohu was also frowning. This matter was actually related to the crown prince and his son's disappearance. Could it be? Thinking about this, Wu Ma Xiaohu emitted a faint killing intent. At this moment, Zhu Jingqing and Zhu Di were still kneeling in the hole. When they heard the footsteps outside, they immediately lowered their heads. especially Zhu Jingqing, he could no longer remain calm. Zhu Qingxian walked towards the crown prince and fiercely kicked Zhu Jingqing, sending him flying. Then, he immediately sat on the main seat. Zhu Jingqing's body was like a cannonball as he fiercely smashed out of the room. Waves of muffled sounds rang out from outside. It could be seen how powerful the kick was. Zhu Di. Tell me what happened. Zhu Di didn't dare to lie and told everything that happened just now. Zhu Qingxian felt a wave of dizziness after hearing it and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Your Majesty. Father Emperor. At this moment, waves of hurried footsteps rang out from outside again. The Empress, Che Mainyang, and Che Hongliang could be seen appearing. Your Majesty, where's my Yun? Che Mainyang's beautiful face revealed a panicked expression. Meanwhile, Che Hongliang hurriedly bowed with a grave expression. Empress, out of all the princes, only Zhu Jingqing and I are left, the other princes have all died. Zhu Di said sorrowfully. Che Mainyang blankly looked at Zhu Di, who was kneeling on the ground. A few hours ago, my son was alive and well, and a few hours later, he told me that he died. Empress. Che Hongliang cried out in surprise. The Empress could be seen directly fainting on the ground. Emperor Zhu Qingxian gasped for breath and said coldly, Go. Go and bring that unfilial son over. Yes. Wumut Saohu replied coldly. After quite a while, Wumut Saohu carried Zhu Jingqing over. Right now, Zhu Jingqing's entire body was covered in blood, and he had suffered very serious external injuries. However, his life was not in danger. Speak. Tell me everything in full detail. I, the Emperor, have lost a few hundred of my sons today. I don't mind losing another one. Zhu Qingxian stared fixedly at Zhu Jingqing. What that little girl said just now was very obvious. Everything that happened was because of Zhu Jingqing. This His Highness the Crown Prince. Father Emperor, I'll speak. I'll speak. Right now, how would Zhu Jingqing dare to hide anything? Your son accidentally found Nuo's bloodline and Donghuang's bloodline. Chapter 406. Speak. Continue. Zhu Qingxian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Zhu Jingqing gulped. These two bloodlines are under the control of Lord Marquis. They are both in the plains under his jurisdiction. So you're in a hurry to take over the plain. Zhu Qingxian instantly understood. Ho Shuolin wanted to monopolize the two branches, and after his son found out, he became greedy. Zhu Jingqing fell silent, tacitly acknowledging the truth. And then Zhu Jingqing said, after that, a few days ago, I brought along my trusted subordinates and went over, wanting to meet them, but they were too powerful, and I was the only one who didn't make it through. What about her? Wu Ma Chao asked angrily. Zhu Jingqing didn't dare to look directly at it and said in a low voice, he was burned to death. What? Father Emperor, I thought that there wouldn't be any formidable figures appearing in that kind of low-level plane, but who would have thought that a little girl would actually be able to defeat us? Upon thinking about Dong Huangli, Zhu Jingqing couldn't help but tremble a bit. Zhu Qingxian questioned coldly, is it that little girl just now? No, not the one just now, it is even smaller than the one just now. Hearing Zhu Jingqing's words, the hall was silent. A child younger than the monster just now. What kind of monster was that? How could there be such a person in such a low-level plane? Your Majesty, I think we should immediately return to the palace to discuss a countermeasure. Che Hongliang made the most sincere suggestion. Zhu Qingxian was silent for a moment before he said, send someone to retrieve the corpses of the princes. This emperor will naturally take revenge for this. As for the crown prince, he will be stripped of his title and thrown into the dungeon to be dealt with later. "Father Emperor, please spare me, I didn't do it on purpose, Father Emperor." Zhu Xingqing's entire body was covered with blood, and it seemed like Zhu Xingqing wanted to crawl towards his father emperor, but the soldiers outside the door grabbed onto Zhu Xingqing and brought him away. "Imperial Father, spare my life." Zhu Xingqing's pleading voice could still be heard from outside the hole. If he had known this would happen, he would never have gone to such a low-level plane. The bloodline of the Nuo clan and the bloodline of the Donghuang clan were not as important as his life. Wealth was sought in danger. Zhu Xingqing obviously did not seek wealth, but brought disaster upon himself. If Yihua wasn't that powerful, Zhu Xingqing might have succeeded, and the consequences would be unimaginable. "Return to the palace," Zhu Qingxian shouted in a deep voice. The majestic team had only been here for a few hours, but they suddenly returned. This made many people in the city curious, and they were all discussing why the royal family suddenly returned to the palace. The hunt would last for 7 days. Could it be that something had happened? This was what everyone was thinking. Moreover, from the number of people in the group, there were a lot fewer people, and those who were missing were princes dressed in luxurious clothes. This gave rise to all kinds of speculations. The team did not land outside the imperial city. Instead, they flew directly into the imperial palace. Of course, the news of all the princes being killed had to be kept under wraps. Otherwise, it would cause unnecessary panic. After Zhu Qingxian returned to the palace, he immediately summoned all the ministers to discuss how to deal with this matter. "Heavenly Master, do you have a good plan to repel the enemy?" Zhu Qingxian, who was sitting on the throne, asked in a low voice. His tone was filled with desolation. Anyone who encountered such a thing would collapse, but Zhu Qingxian was the emperor. No matter how great the pressure was, he had to endure it. Ing Wei turned around and cupped his hands. "Your Majesty, the blood ray has come true." Everyone present was silent. The legend of the blood ray was true. It had only been a few days, yet it had already happened. 3 days later, it would be even more impossible. Not to mention anything else, just the 3 corpse kun were enough to keep them busy. What bullsh** T blood ray? This subject believes that in a battle between 2 armies, the one who strikes first has the advantage. If your Majesty trusts this subject is willing to take 100,000 soldiers and slaughter that lower plane as an offering to the heroic spirits of the princes. Wu Ma Chao was brimming with murderous intent. The little girl only knew demonic techniques. It was only because of the 3 corpse kuin's presence that he didn't dare to act. Moreover, the corpse kun was a vicious beast from heaven's domain. Those lower planes didn't have them, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Che Hongliang disagreed and cupped his hands, saying, "General Wu, if we send out our troops, then there will be no room for negotiation. You have to know that the other party could be a supreme. So what if he's a supreme? Can a supreme kill princes as he pleases?" Wu Ma Chao was a bit selfish. He wanted to take revenge for his son. As for the little girl the crown prince spoke of, she was killed because they were not as skilled. Ing Wei calmly said, "Your Majesty, this subject believes that we should invite a supreme to mediate this matter. Is there a need for a supreme for such a small matter? Your Majesty, allow this subject to take revenge for the princes. That way, your Majesty will be at ease. General Wu, if you really bring your troops there, then it will be a battle to the death." Che Hongliang warned. A general was a general after all, he was brainless. Wu Ma Chao coldly snorted, "Who knows if the little girl is bluffing? Your Majesty, we cannot be scared out of our wits by the enemy. Allow this subject to be the vanguard. If this subject fails, then it won't be too late to invite a supreme." Once these words were spoken, the hall began to whisper among themselves. Zhu Qingxian powerlessly asked, "Heavenly Teacher, what do you think of this method?" General Wu's suggestion is not impossible, but if General Wu fails, then we can only place our hopes on a supreme. There will be no room for maneuver. Ying Wei's words were true. Heavenly Teacher, you are boosting the morale of others and diminishing your own. This general has guarded the border for thousands of years and has experienced far more dangers than this. What is there to fear from such a lower plane? Che Hongliang, what do you think? Zhu Qingxian asked. Che Hongliang lowered his voice and said, my opinion is the same as yours. We can send our troops, but there is no way out. Is there a way out now? Wu Ma Chao laughed mockingly. This group of treacherous people only knew how to play tricks. What do you all think? Zhu Qingxian asked the officials. I think General Wu's suggestion is feasible. Let's first test the enemy. If they are truly a fox exploiting the tiger's might, then we will destroy them. I agree. I also agree. I also agree. Seeing so many people in favor of General Wu's suggestion, Zhu Qingxian seemed to have made a decision. After all the adult princes had been killed. It would be a lie to say that they were not angry. Moreover, this anger had to be washed away with blood. Good. Wu Ma Chao, listen to the decree. I order you to take 100,000 soldiers and be the vanguard. If the enemy is a fox exploiting the tiger's might, bring their heads to see me. Then, we will destroy that lower plane as a sacrifice to the souls of our princes. Wu Ma Chao knelt to receive the decree and shouted, do not worry, Your Majesty. I will definitely kill those inferior races. However, if I do not return within a day, Your Majesty will arrange for an audience with a supreme. I hope Your Majesty will take care of my family. Chapter 407. This servant will not hesitate to risk my life. This servant will go and prepare now. Go. Wu Ma Chao bowed and left. Soon after, he went to gather 100,000 soldiers to take revenge for his son. In the palace hall, Sky Teacher sighed. Rather than attacking, I might as well express my goodwill. This is the best way to avoid this disaster. However, this was normal for His Majesty. It had been a long time since the royal family suffered a loss. For the royal family's face, they had to fight back. Sky Teacher, go and prepare for the ceremony. If General Wu Ma does not return tomorrow morning, we will ask Zhizun for help. Right now, Zhu Qingxian only planned to use these two plans. He had a lot of confidence in Zhizun. After all, Zhizun was a very ethereal being. He was above gods and controlled the laws of the world. And the other party was just as self-proclaimed his honor. Who knows if it was real or fake? However, those three corpse Kuan were indeed very hard to deal with. Your Majesty, please be at ease. This servant will naturally make proper arrangements and do my best to get through this disaster. Ying Wei was a conservative person. Although the suggestion that he made was not very aggressive, it was very practical. If they followed Ying Wei's suggestion and sent someone to get in touch with Yi Hua and try to satisfy Yi Hua's request, there might be a trace of hope to solve the problem. Alright, there is no hope at all. Under Zhu Xingxing's attitude, Yi Hua had already determined his ending. Not only his ending, but the ending of the people around him as well. At that very moment, within the ruins of Ji family, there were 6 figures. They were huddled together and seemed to be discussing something. What is it? GGG, Imperial Translation, I want this place. Sun Fang, what is this fellow saying? Ah. He is speaking in a dialect, I don't understand. Then, we want this place. You guys go to Ying family and guard it. No, I want this place. You guys go to Ying family and Voidless Realm. These 6 people were naturally Voidless Realm and Death Mage. Death Mage, Sun Fang, Green and Red brothers, plus Tang Wei and Zishan. The 6 of them followed his honor's instructions and came to wait for Yi Hua. Because Yi Hua felt that after Yi Zizi caused such a ruckus, the other party would definitely not sit still and do nothing. There was a possibility that the other party would take action. And the other party would definitely take action against the remaining 2 big shots or everyone. Thus, Yi Hua specially ordered Wei Chang to deal with them. Of course, Wei Chang wouldn't deal with it himself, so he arranged for his subordinates. In the beginning, he had called Death Mage and Sun Fang, but after feeling that there were too few people, he decided to call the Green and Red brothers. In the end, when Tang Wei heard that there was going to be a fight, her hands became a bit itchy. Wei Chang naturally doted on Tang Wei a lot, and thus, he gave Tang Wei a chance to gain some experience. Adding on Zishan, who was by the side, there were only 6 of them. The 6 of them were divided into groups of 2, each guarding the 3 giants. However, all 6 of them knew that if they were to really come to Voidless Realm, they would definitely appear in Voidless Realm first, and there was at least an 88% chance that they would appear there. This was what Zishan had said herself, because if she really wanted to come here, the deities would definitely go and investigate, and there would be records of her. As soon as he said that, everyone wanted to stay here because there was work to do. They were so bored that their scalps were falling off. Hearing these women arguing, Big Brother Green said, "How about we play rock paper scissors? The winner will guard the G family side, and the loser will guard the other 2 sides. How about it?" After Sun Fang heard it, she felt that it was fine. Zishan and Tang Wei also felt that it was not a bad idea. "Little brother, go." Big Brother Green pushed Yi Hong forward. As for Tang Wei, she pushed Zishan forward. "You don't want a husband and wife team, and yet, you want a brother team. You don't want your wife, be careful of Zishan getting angry and killing you." Yi Hong looked at Zishan, then immediately shifted his gaze away. Yi Hong's heart was thumping wildly. Although they were already an old couple, every time Yi Hong saw Zishan, his heart would be in a mess, and every day, he felt as if he was living the feeling of his first love. Death Mage pushed Sun Fang forward. "This woman's luck was good, back then, she helped me fish and won quite a bit of money." Before playing rock paper scissors, Zishan secretly glared at Yi Hong, seemingly saying, "If you dare to win against me, don't enter the room today, go sleep on the sofa." Yi Hong felt that Zishan was threatening him, and naturally, he wouldn't fight with his wife over Zishan. This was a kind of display of doting on his wife. Rock paper scissors. "Oh yeah, I win," Sun Fang laughed, then used a pair of scissors to wipe the 2 of them. Yi Hong spread out his hands. "Don't blame me." Zishan snorted, acting coquettishly. After that, she left Ji family with Tang Wei and headed towards Ying family. As for the Green and Red brothers, they went to Voidless Realm. Meanwhile, inside Leisure Bar's office, Yi Hua was smoking a cigarette while standing beside the window and staring at the night sky, and Wei Chang was respectfully standing behind him. "Your Honor, will they come?" Wei Chang asked in a low voice. Yi Hua spat out a mouthful of smoke, and the smoke transformed into a skull, which was soon blown away by a breeze. According to those people's way of thinking, they definitely won't leave the matter at that. What's the saying again? Attack when the enemy is unprepared. Yi Hua said indifferently, then lightly flicked away the cigarette ash with his index finger, then took another puff of the cigarette. "Comfortable." Wei Chang immediately complimented, "Your Honor is truly courageous and resourceful," subordinate is convinced. "Wei Chang, I am already tired of hearing those words, prepare some new words." "Extremely smart." Yi Hua almost choked on his own cigarette. Touching onto his own hair, he said, "If I were to become extremely smart, you would be the first one I would target." His Honor is just saying it casually. "I have already said that I have stewed Ligu a few thousand times, but I still haven't stewed it yet." "Your Honor, how many people are going to go 3 days later?" Yi Hua took one last puff of the cigarette, then said faintly, "Everyone." Wei Chang, who was behind Yi Hua, revealed out a strange smile, seemingly like he was already impatient. There will always be some fellows who don't know the difference between life and death and want to anger his honor. After knowing the consequences of their actions, it will be too late for regrets. In this world, there is no if. Bu. Imperial translation, wife, how many gold coins have you sent? Right now, Death Mage and Sun Fong were sitting at the entrance of Ji family's house. Sun Fong was still sitting cross-legged on the broken chair, and her pair of tender fingers were tapping on the screen frantically. Death Mage, who was at the side, was not inferior in any way either. These two people are simply demon hands. Don't make a sound, we are fighting a boss. Aya, it is all your fault for distracting me, and the boss was actually snatched away by someone else. Sun Fong snorted. She was not willing to accept this outcome. Let's do another 648, I will kill you too. Death Mage looked at Sun Fong, who was at the side, and deeply despised her. Right now, I don't even need to top up money when I'm fishing, do you believe me? Death Mage secretly opened up the top-up interface and instantly tapped on 648. Then, he scanned his face and paid. Death Mage's movements were so skillful that he looked like a habitual criminal. What are you doing? Top up money. Sun Fong glared at Death Mage. GGG, Imperial translation, top up money. Impossible, it is impossible for me to top up money in my entire life. Within the pitch-black ruins of Ji family, a different rhythm of music rang out. Furthermore, that noise seemed to have added a bit of liveliness to the ruins. Meanwhile, within Heaven's Manor, Wu Ma Chao had already finished his preparations. Looking at his 100,000-strong army, every single one of them was a fierce warrior who had been through hundreds of battles. Going to a low-level plane, wouldn't it be just a matter of slaughtering dogs? Soldiers. I don't want to say any unnecessary words, I only have one request. Wu Ma Chao paused for a moment, then swept his fierce eyes around, kill all of the living beings in front of us. Chapter 408. Just as Zishan had guessed, Wu Ma Chao's teleportation location was indeed according to Ho Shualin and Zhu Jingqing's. Therefore, he appeared at the Ji family's ruins. At this moment, a colorful glow appeared in the sky above the Ji family, illuminating the ruins of the Ji family. The light fell like a waterfall, covering the entire Ji family's ruins. The scene was breathtaking and, of course, it was very grand. Figures gradually appeared in the light. Tens of thousands of people stood in a square formation, bringing with them an austere aura. After the light disappeared, the austere aura became heavier and heavier, forming a murderous aura. Everyone's eyes shone with a bloodthirsty light. Toward such a low-level plane, the soldiers only had one thought, to slaughter. Wu Ma Chao scanned the unfamiliar world. The air quality was not ordinary, and just smelling it made him want to vomit. However, an unusual sound rang out in the originally peaceful night. Bu. Wu Ma Chao, who was standing at the front of the army, raised his eyebrows. What was that sound? It seemed so young and immature. At that moment, Wu Ma Chao was wearing a black armor. Both of his shoulders were diamond-shaped and embedded with golden godly pearls. His breastplate was slightly protruding like the sharp teeth of a beast. Together with the half-moon broadsword in his hand, he looked like a god descending from the heavens. General. Be careful, there might be a trap. Wait for me to check, the deputy general cupped his hands and shouted. Wu Ma Chao sneered. He raised the ancient godly weapon in his hand and slashed it down. Suddenly, a loud sound rang out. The huge broadsword formed a fan shape and swept out with a boundless and ferocious aura. It was as if it was going to crush everything in front of it. However, that was the case. In an instant, the buildings in front of him were all turned into powder. A man and a woman could be seen sitting not far away, playing with something with their heads lowered. And the sound of biu 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 was coming from here. Wu Ma Chao was a bit shocked. Who were these two people? How could they control the power of the ancient godly weapon and not be turned into powder? They're here. Let's go take care of them. Sun Fang raised her head and took a look. It seemed that the game in her hands was more important. Death Mage let out a jijia jijia sound. Imperial translation: you fought for this yourself. How can you let me take care of it? Sun Fang seemed to be able to understand what he was saying. She said in a sweet voice, "Are you going or not? If you're not going, then I won't top up the money for you." Seems like the person in charge of the money is Sun Fang. This caused Death Mage to be a little depressed. Stacking the phone and the power bank together, Death Mage placed them on the chair, and only after making sure that they would not fall down, did he feel relieved. A black-robed man standing in front of an army of 100,000 was a rather comical sight. However, from Death Mage's point of view, the number of people on the other side wasn't as many as he had imagined. However, if he were to look down from above, the scene would be much more spectacular. "Who are you?" Wu Ma Chao pointed his blade at the Death Mage. "Kakik." The royal translator said, "Your father." Wu Ma Chao was stunned. What did that mean? Since Death Mage was wearing a black robe, Wu Ma Chao couldn't see his face clearly. That was why he was suspicious of his opponent's voice. Sun Fang translated while playing the game, "He's calling you an idiot. How dare you? General Wu Ma is not someone a piece of trash like you can slander." As the deputy general, he had to stand up for the general. Wu Ma Chao motioned for his deputies to withdraw and asked, "Why are you here?" "Biu biu biu." Sun Fang pressed her phone and laughed, "Waiting for you guys." "Kakik." The royal translator said, "My wife is right." Hearing Sun Fang's words, Wu Ma Chao laughed loudly. Even the soldiers behind him started laughing as well. "Just two people and you want to fight against this general's army of 100,000? Are you guys stupid or insane?" Wu Ma Chao laughed in disdain. The people of this low-level plane were too arrogant because they didn't know what despair was. Sun Fang stood up and looked straight at Wu Ma Chao. "There's no need for two. One is enough to deal with you guys." "Ha ha ha, what a joke. You guys are the people who call themselves his honor, right?" Wu Ma Chao asked while laughing. "That's right. His honor predicted that you guys would come and launch a sneak attack. That's why he ordered us to receive you guys and serve you well," Sun Fang said while playing the game. This kind of attitude made Wu Ma Chao very unhappy. He immediately pointed his index finger at Sun Fang, and a golden ray of light shot out from his fingertip. It brought along an astonishing might, and its speed was so fast that it made people blush with shame. Sun Fang didn't even raise her head. It was as if she didn't notice it. Wu Ma Chao sneered. So it was just a woman who only knew how to talk big. However, the next scene caused Wu Ma Chao to lose his cool. The golden ray of light actually stopped half a meter away from the woman. It was as if it was isolated and could no longer move forward. How was this possible? Wu Ma Chao looked at his own hand. This move was able to pierce through people who were weaker than him. Even if they were at the same level, it would still be able to heavily injure them. However, in this low-level plane, it was actually blocked. If Wu Ma Chao had asked Zhu Jinqing in detail, perhaps he wouldn't have been so impulsive. After all, Wu Ma Chao believed that the Crown Prince's trifling skills couldn't even be put on the stage. It was normal for him to lose. However, he was different. This kind of thinking was indeed very scary. Actually, there was no difference between him and the Crown Prince. You guys are fighting already. Do you need my help? The green and red brothers suddenly appeared at the scene. Zishan and Tang Wei also suddenly appeared here. The four of them stood in the sky and curiously looked at the army of 100,000 in front of them. The scale was not small at all. They actually sent out so many cannon fodder. That's right, in their eyes, these people could only be called cannon fodder. Wu Ma Chao looked at Zishan, who was one of the two women. He thought to himself, do they look alike, or are they the wives of the Marquis? Also, what is the meaning of the sudden appearance of 2 men and 2 women? Helpers. However, only 4 came. The people of this low-level plane must have some problems with their brains. Stop messing around. Can't you see that my little skeleton is acting cool? Sun Fang laughed. The little skeleton and Wu Ma Chao looked at Death Mage, who was holding the scythe of death. Death Mage revealed his skull. Wu Ma Chao's gaze was startled. He didn't expect Death Mage to be from the undead race. He was actually suppressed by a skeleton. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if this were to spread out? In this kind of trash plane, only this kind of low-level undead race would appear. Of course, Zishan knew Wu Ma Chao. However, she wasn't very familiar with him. She had heard about this person before. She quite admired Wu Ma Chao. He guarded the border all year round in exchange for peace. However, she didn't expect him to be the one leading the army today. If they could instigate this person to defect, it would be a fortunate thing for the team. General Wu Ma. Zishan shouted. Chapter 409. You are Madame Ziyuan. Wu Ma Chao looked at Zishan in the sky and asked. Zishan paused for a moment, then said indifferently, I do not have any relationship with that Ho Shuolin. Please do not call me Madame Ziyuan, my name is Zishan. Alright, then Zishan, what do you mean by this? Wu Ma Chao did not want to waste any more words. This Zishan's attitude was clearly a traitor. She betrayed heaven's manner, betrayed her faith. General Wu Ma, a wise man submits to circumstances. If you and your subordinates surrender to his honor, then we will be able to avoid a lot of casualties. Ha! Ha ha ha! Wu Ma Chao laughed after hearing that. He did not expect Zishan to persuade them to surrender. Zishan, did I hear wrongly? You want to persuade them to surrender? I am Heaven's Manor's General Zhenyuan. My family has been guarding the border for generations, allowing Heaven's Manor's people to live a good life. This glory is my faith. And you abandoned your faith and helped the tyrant. However, even if you surrender, I will not let any of you go. Everyone in this low-level plane will pay a heavy price for what you have done. Even after death, your soul will be cursed by the heavens. Zishan shook her head after hearing that. General Wu Ma, why bother? Your stubbornness will make the warriors behind you sacrifice for nothing. What a joke. My soldiers were brought up by me. They do not fear anything. As long as it is an enemy, they will bravely charge forward, even if it means death. Isn't that right? Do not fear death. Do not fear death. Do not fear death. Waves of high-spirited voices soared into the sky. That deep and resounding voice made one's scalp go numb. The green and red brothers could feel it very clearly. This was morale. Zishan, it's useless. Sun Fang slowly put down her phone. She knew that Zishan wanted to persuade her people. However, it took you so much effort to change your mind. For a general to change his side just because of a few words from you, there must be a conspiracy behind it. Zishan deeply sighed and turned around, as if she did not want to see her comrades being massacred. Upon seeing that, Yihong hurriedly walked in front of Zishan. She did not know how to comfort Zishan and could only gently hug her. Wu Ma Chao snorted coldly when he saw this. A high and mighty god was actually following a lowly human. He was the scum of the gods, a disgrace to all the gods. Lowly skeleton. I'll let you see how this general breaks your bones. Just as he finished speaking, the skeleton opposite him tossed the scythe in his hand into the air. GGG, Royal Translation, Death Absorption. The death scythe in the hands of the death mage was not an ordinary item. Although in terms of toughness, it seemed to be inferior to the Xianyuan sword, which was an ancient godly item, the death scythe was an artifact that could be used for both offense and defense. It was not a real weapon. It was just like the staff in the hands of a mage. Although its attack power was low, its magic power was very strong. The Scythe of Death followed the same principle. In the Scythe of Death, there was a terrifying power hidden within it. It was the super move that came with the Scythe of Death. Death absorption. If it was used at this time, it would be obvious that it was an area of effect attack. If it was a single target attack, it would take a long time. Therefore, Death Mage was a very good mid-laner. Sometimes, he would even pretend to be a top laner, but in the end, he would be beaten to a pulp. Death Mage was a good jungler, snatching all kinds of resources. When the Scythe of Death was tossed into the air, it immediately began to spin. The speed became faster and faster, and it was as if a circular black hole had appeared in the air. Although it gave people an illusion, it was not an illusion. It was a real black hole that led to death. A terrifying aura was emitted from the black hole. Wu Ma Chao was shocked. Everyone, listen to my command, get into formation. Ha! The 100,000 generals shouted in unison, and they immediately blocked the terrifying aura. A barrier enveloped everyone within it. The black hole was still expanding, and the aura emitted from it was getting heavier and heavier. It was firmly suppressing the barrier. With the naked eye, it could be seen that the circular barrier seemed to be being pushed, and it looked like a bubble that was about to explode. Finally, the black hole in the air no longer expanded, but it was currently at least 100 meters in radius. It was pitch black inside, and the 100,000 soldiers could clearly see it. It was impossible to think that this was the end. The ruins of the Ji family slowly rose. Wu Ma Chao's gaze shifted over, and he saw that the ruins were actually being sucked into the black hole. However, the suction was getting stronger and stronger. The buildings were no longer rising slowly, but were forcefully sucked in. Some trees were even uprooted. Steady! Wu Ma Chao shouted loudly. What kind of technique was this? How could it be so abnormal? All the soldiers stabbed their weapons into the ground, but the suction of the black hole was getting stronger and stronger. Their feet left long marks on the ground. Even though their weapons were cutting through the ground, they could not stop the suction. The 100,000 soldiers immediately fell into chaos. The barrier was extremely unstable. All of a sudden, the barrier broke. Ah ah ah. Ah ah ah. Ah ah. The moment the barrier broke, countless soldiers' bodies rose into the air, and they were mercilessly swallowed. There was no blood or violence in this scene, only painful wails. The strongest, Wu Ma Chao, shouted angrily. A layer of golden light wrapped around him, and he stabbed the ancient divine weapon in his hand into the ground. His feet stomped hard, and he sank deep into the ground. Do not panic. Resist this suction. Wu Ma Chao shouted angrily. He watched the countless figures being sucked into the black hole, but he could not do anything. Even now, he was still trying to protect himself. Many soldiers began to imitate the general, but their strength was different. Even though they were imitating, they were still sucked into the black hole. General! Save me! Wu Ma Chao turned his head and saw a young and tender-looking youth reaching out his hand. His eyes were filled with panic. He probably hadn't married yet. Wu Ma Chao reached out, but he missed. He could only watch as the young soldier was sucked into the black hole. General. This time, Wu Ma Chao caught him. Vice General. General, thank you. The Vice General revealed a smile. He was not thanking the General for saving him, he was thanking the General for taking care of him all these years. Wu Ma Chao's rigid face was also moved. Do not panic. I will have a way to save you all. However, the suction was getting stronger and stronger. The Vice General's body was lifted high as if he was being pulled by something. Wu Ma Chao's feet began to move underground. It was easy to see how terrifying this suction was. General, let go. Thank you for taking care of us all these years. The Vice General saw that the General was not letting go. He was grateful, but he could not drag the General down with him. What nonsense are you saying? We still have to go back together. Chapter 4:10. The Deputy General smiled and looked at his General. He did not follow the wrong person in this life. Don't let go. Hold on for me. Wu Ma Chao slightly lowered his head and spoke with a commanding tone. The Deputy General had followed him through life and death, so he naturally valued this favor. However, the Deputy General's body had already been torn apart by the suction force. Only his hand and that sincere smile remained. After an unknown amount of time, the screams stopped, and the suction force stopped as well. Wu Ma Chao gasped for breath and raised his head. I said I would. He did not finish his sentence because he saw the Deputy General. Without the suction force, the Deputy General's body drooped down. He was indeed holding on to the Deputy General's hand, but it was only his hand and that smile. Wu Ma Chao let go of the Deputy General's hand and slowly straightened his body. The black hole in the sky had already disappeared. He slowly turned his head. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers behind him had also disappeared. Other than his Deputy General, there was nothing left. This made Wu Ma Chao feel as if he was dreaming. A gentle breeze blew past. Wu Ma Chao took off his helmet. His rigid face seemed to have aged a lot. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and guilt. The opponent only used one move. One move. His elite army was completely gone. At this moment, Wu Ma Chao felt as if the heavens were playing a joke on him. How could there be such a person in a low-level plane like this? No wonder Zi Shan betrayed us and even advised me to surrender. So what she said was true. If I surrendered, I would have been able to save the lives of hundreds of thousands of soldiers. However, I did not listen. That's why there were so many casualties. How am I supposed to face my dead soldiers? This kind of death is meaningless. The gentle breeze messed up Wu Ma Chao's hair. His black hair was mixed with some white hairs, and they gradually turned white. In an instant, his black hair turned white. This was the self-blame of a general. He deeply regretted his orders. Wu Ma Chao suddenly knelt beside the Deputy General. He inserted both his hands into the ground and used them to dig a hole. Once. Twice. Thrice. Wu Ma Chao buried his Deputy General on the spot. Then, he picked up the ancient godly item beside him and stood up. Looking at the skeletons not far away and the people standing in the sky, Wu Ma Chao coldly shouted, "Today, you killed 100,000 of my soldiers. Tomorrow, I will kill 1 million, 10 million of you. I, Wu Ma Chao, curse all of you with my soul." Death Mage let out a cackling sound. Royal translation, curse rebound. Today, I, Wu Ma Chao, admit defeat. However, if there is a next life, I will still stand against you. Wu Ma Chao's body gradually emitted a terrifying aura. The ancient divine weapon in his hand also shone brightly. Death Mage had been waiting for this moment. It had been a long time since he had fought, and he could finally have a one-on-one fight. Be careful. He wants to detonate his primordial spirit and ancient divine tool. Zishan suddenly cried out in alarm. The few of them were stunned. Were they not going to fight anymore? Suicide. Wu Ma Chao's heart was filled with guilt. He had already lost all desire to fight. If he had listened to the heavenly teacher's advice, then this would not have happened. Who would be responsible for the deaths of 100,000 soldiers? Only an incompetent general like him would be responsible. You guys are indeed very strong. But no matter how strong you are, you can't be stronger than a sovereign. Just wait to receive the wrath of a sovereign. I will be waiting for you on the road. Ha ha ha. In the midst of Wu Ma Chao's crazed laughter, his body became brighter and brighter. A berserk aura swept out in all directions, and the ancient divine tool gradually cracked open. A world-destroying aura was fusing together. Death Mage let out a breath. Cackle cackle. Royal translation, flight restriction. Wu Ma Chao was surrounded by a layer of transparent bubble. Boom! Wu Ma Chao turned into a speck of light within the bubble and exploded along with the ancient divine tool. The inside of the bubble was distorting. The multicolored energy seemed to be very violent. It wanted to explode, but it was surrounded by the bubble. ZZZT. A crack actually appeared on the surface of the bubble. Soon after, more and more cracks appeared. In the blink of an eye, the bubble exploded. The entire ground of the G family trembled, and the barrier of the G family almost shattered. If it was not for the flight restriction absorbing the first wave of damage, the consequences of this terrifying self-detonation would have been unimaginable. However, Death Mage, who was the closest to the explosion, was also affected by it. He even slid backwards. This kind of self-detonation was a qualitative change. It was not only the primordial spirit, but also the ancient divine tool. Even a pervert like Death Mage was forced to slide backwards a few meters. It must be said that Wu Ma Chao's self-detonation was quite effective. At the very least, it made Death Mage retreat. There was a loud bang. Death Mage, who was sliding backwards, felt that he bumped into something and turned his head to take a look. Oh God, my phone fell onto the ground. This is the latest iPhone XS. It was not easy for me to get Sun Fong to buy it for me, and it was the highest specs. Now that it fell onto the ground, Death Mage's heart was broken. He picked it up and took a look. If Death Mage's face had flesh, he would definitely be shocked. Because a crack had appeared on the screen. I am a perfectionist, how can I allow such a flaw? Sun Fong took a look. If you don't fish in the future, I will buy you a new one. Don't fish. Aren't you asking for my life? At most, I will just play with it first. Maybe I will get used to it after playing for a while. Everyone, we will be leaving first. Sun Fong smiled and left with Death Mage. Tang Wei and Big Brother Green tactfully left as well, leaving behind Yi Hong and Zishan. Zishan's mood was a bit complicated. It was truly a pity, so many people were gone in the blink of an eye. Seeing that his wife was dejected, Yi Hong lightly hugged onto her. Yi Hong, who didn't know how to speak, could only use actions to express his feelings. It was not easy for Yi Hong to take the initiative. Zishan didn't say anything and lightly hugged onto Yi Hong. Zishan, how about you don't go? Yi Hong was talking about what would happen 3 days later. It would probably be even more miserable. Zishan had killed quite a lot of people that night. She was only feeling sorry for what happened today. She wouldn't change her opinion of Zishan. After leaving Yi Hong's embrace, Zishan faintly said, I will go. Oh, all right then. Towards Zishan's request, Yi Hong agreed without thinking. Of course, if Zishan crossed his bottom line, he wouldn't agree to it. For example, Zishan's request to sleep on the same bed, Yi Hong would definitely not agree to it. Yi Hong had to make some achievements first, only then would he have the face to sleep on the same bed as Zishan. Zishan let out a breath, then turned around and looked at Yihong. Pursing her lips, she said, "Are you going to sleep on the bed tonight?" Zishan's words had undoubtedly crossed Yihong's bottom line. Right now, Yihong was especially serious. "Zishan, I will have to sternly criticize you for this. As a girl, how can you make such a request? Even if someone is going to make such a request, it should be made by me." Chapter 411. Yihong said gravely, "Zishan, these few days, I have already said it countless of times, I will only do that thing with you after I become successful and famous. Otherwise, in my heart, you don't like me anymore. Nope, I like you. Bring it up then." "Not really, I want to make a career." "Forget it, I will go and look for his honor to grant me death." Yihong was a bit troubled recently. In the beginning, Zishan was still fine, and Zishan seemed to have promised me, but gradually, at night, Zishan began to talk about this serious problem, whether or not they should share a bed first before making a career. Zishan even said that she was very bored and wanted to give birth to a child to play with. Yihong, am a man, the words that I have said are like water that has been poured out, how can I go back on my words? However, the continuous rejections made Zishan angry. Yihong was very puzzled. "In the beginning, it was you who didn't want to share a bed with me, and now, you want to get angry because we are not on the same bed? This is too ridiculous. Why did Zishan do this?" It was because she had been very close to Tang Wei recently, and after Tang Wei told Zishan about her experiences, Zishan became very worried, and thus, Zishan began to test Zishan crazily. In the end, this foolish brat actually didn't have any reaction, and he wasn't even willing to say it directly. This is not a good thing. After all, Zishan didn't want Yihong and Wei Chang to be like that, and she also didn't want to follow in Tang Wei's footsteps and Sun Fang's footsteps. However, looking at the current situation, Zishan was definitely going to follow in her footsteps. Inside Leisure Bar's office, Wei Chang received Death Mage's report and said respectfully, "Your Honor, the people are here, everything has been cleaned up." "That's good, you should go back and rest early, I am tired as well." Yihua yawned, seeming to be very bored. Wei Chang smiled slightly and said, "Your Honor, have a good sleep." "Have a good sleep." Hee. Yihua sneered a few times. "With these two troublesome women around, how can I possibly have a good sleep? If you have the ability, don't let me worry about you." Wei Chang knew what his honor meant, and laughed awkwardly, then disappeared from the office. Lying on the bed, Yihua once again enjoyed the feeling of being unable to sleep. "Right now, without a woman in his embrace, I feel very unnatural. In the past, I did have some small cards in Leisure Bar. If the two of you still don't come back, I am going to have a fur race." Heaven's sanctum. That night, the entire imperial palace was brightly lit. As the emperor, Zhu Qingxian did not rest. He sat on the dragon throne and waited for news. The ministers stood obediently, hoping that General Wu Ma would return victoriously. The sky gradually brightened, illuminating the pitch-black night sky. Zhu Qingxian narrowed his eyes and stared at the sky outside. When the darkness dissipated and dawn arrived, everyone realized a problem. General Wu Ma would not be coming back. "Ying Wei, go and prepare the items needed for the sacrificial ceremony. We can only rely on Jizun now." Zhu Qingxuan's eyes were bloodshot and looked terrifying. Coupled with his exhausted expression, it was as if he would go berserk at any moment. "Yes." Ying Wei replied respectfully and left the hall. Zhu Qingxian sat paralyzed on the throne and murmured, "The blood aura is really effective." Everyone was dead silent after hearing this. After a long time, Zhu Qingxian stood up, walked out of the hall, and walked towards the royal altar. The royal altar was located in the north of the imperial palace. It was an independent place. The size of the altar was about the same as the entire imperial palace. After all, Jizun was a noble existence. If they were not pious, how could Jizun help them? At that moment, all the maids in the imperial palace were called over to help. As there were too many things to prepare, Zhu Qingxian did not want to go to the back of the palace. He did not want to go to the bedroom either. He knew what the concubines would think. After a few hours, all the sacrificial items had been prepared. There were countless ancient godly items on the altar. There were even rare ancient godly items. Of course, the number was small. However, the fact that they were able to take out so many items showed how powerful the imperial palace was. Your Majesty, everything is ready. Ying Wei bowed and said. Then, let's begin. Zhu Qingxian walked forward and picked up a small knife. He cut his finger and let his blood drip into the groove. As the blood of the imperial palace flowed into the altar, the entire altar changed. It was as if it had color. The complicated carvings around it started to rotate slowly. Zhu Qingxian knelt on the cushion with sincerity and muttered in his heart. Following the rotation of the carvings on the ground, a complicated picture was formed. Soon after, the picture emitted a faint blue radiance. The blue radiance became brighter and brighter. It was like a blue flame, causing people's eyes to light up. Pooh! The blue radiance soared into the sky. The weapons on the altar instantly disappeared, and the blue radiance shot into the clouds and disappeared without a trace. In a small world, a man was playing the zither. The sound of the zither caused people to be intoxicated. Behind him stood two young men. Their expressions were filled with respect, and their gazes were filled with yearning. A ray of blue radiance suddenly descended. The man stopped playing the zither and said, "Go take a look." "Yes, father." The young man instantly disappeared and immediately returned. "Father, these are the godly weapons sent by Heaven's mansion." "That's good too. Forging a primordial sharp blade requires a lot of materials." Chapter 4:12. Zhu Qingxian didn't dare to say too much and went straight to the point. "Your Honor, my son seemed to have offended an overlord, and that overlord killed all of my sons. Furthermore, he even said that he would bathe the imperial city in blood 3 days later. I have no other choice. Would an overlord be that bored?" Hong Tai laughed lightly. It was clear that he didn't believe what Hong Tai said. Overlords were all ethereal existences, and under normal circumstances, they wouldn't even appear, and they wouldn't get involved in any disputes. Of course, that was except for the matter that happened a few years ago. That perverted skeleton did something that angered both humans and gods, and all of the overlords took revenge on him. At that time, Hong Tai and his master went to take revenge on him. However, his master died in that battle, and his master was heartbroken. However, fortunately, those monsters that killed people like flies were all killed, and the world returned to peace. Furthermore, it was under the encirclement of overlords, and right now, his strength had increased by who knows how many times. Even if an overlord were to encircle them again, a single fart from him would be able to suffocate them to death. Your Honor, I didn't believe it at the start either. Yesterday, my general brought 100,000 troops to investigate, and he still hasn't returned yet. The odds are against him. Zhu Qingxian sighed. That stupid son of mine actually caused such a huge trouble, and now, I have to help him clean up his mess. Hong Tai disapprovingly said, "Seeing is believing. Tell me, how did you two offend that overlord?" Zhu Qingxian told Hong Tai about what his son said. So it was because of Nuwa and East Emperor's bloodline, then it makes sense. Xing, what do you two think about this matter? Hong Fei asked his two sons to see what they thought. Hong Yi said respectfully, "Father, I feel that with father's strength, you are not inferior to that overlord at all." Overlords were also divided into different levels, and within each level, there would definitely be a difference in strength. What Hong Yi said is very true. Father's strength is boundless, and there isn't anyone in the entire universe who is as strong as Father. From the looks of it, these two youngsters belong to the category of bootlicking. However, as a father, Hong Tai had lived in seclusion for a long time, and when he heard his son bootlicking, he couldn't help but laugh. Emperor, you can be at ease. With me here, even if a few Jizun were to come, the Jizun would still have to give me some face, let alone an unknown Jizun. Hong Tai appeared to be very confident. After all, there was an agreement between the Jizun, and the Jizun was not allowed to kill each other. Zhu Qingxian heaved a huge sigh of relief. Since the supreme martial artist had spoken, then it must be fine. Your Honor, the room and food are ready. Yes, it's been a long time since I've tasted Heaven's Sanctum's food. Your Honor, rest assured, I will definitely entertain you well for the next few days. Emperor, you are too polite, Hong Tai said politely, but his arrogant attitude was not polite at all, it was more like it was a matter of course. Hong Yi and Hong Xing, who were following behind him, also had disdainful smiles on their faces. Their birth represented that they were extraordinary. Because their father was a supreme being, they should enjoy the respect of everyone. Even if the other party was an emperor, they still had to be respectful to them. Because the son of a supreme being is not someone you can afford to offend. Oh ho, Yi Hua means, you can provoke my woman just because she is my woman. Then let me teach you what it means to not provoke someone. 3 days passed quickly. Today was Saturday, and the weather was sunny. It was suitable for the whole family to travel together. It has been a very long time since I last brought my guild members out to do something big. Back then, when I went to Ying family, I didn't manage to enjoy that kind of bloodthirsty feeling. However, this time, I hope that those deities will not disappoint me. Furthermore, he hoped that the deities would invite some powerful backers because he liked surprises. On the bed, he wore a black suit. He tied his tie and touched his hair wax. Then, he pressed his hair down and swept it back. This slicked-back hairstyle was very handsome. Yi Hua looked at himself in the mirror. I'm still as outstanding as ever. Taking out a cigarette and lighting it up, Yi Hua opened the bedroom door and slowly walked down the stairs. He saw more than 10 people standing in the lounge of the bar. They were originally chatting happily, but when they heard the unique footsteps, they all stopped talking and immediately stood properly. Your Honor. When Yi Hua appeared in front of everyone knelt down on one knee and shouted out respectfully. Yi Hua raised his hand slightly, and a formless power lifted everyone up. There were a lot of people who came today, and there were even more than the last time. There were 4 of the 7 deadly sins. Wei Chang, Lai Gu, Yi Zizi, Zhu Tian. Underlings, Death Mage, Sun Fang, Tang Wei, Yi Ran, Wen Xia, Bai Xiaozhen, Zi Shan, Green and Red Brothers. Zhu Tian's 2 maids did not come because Zhu Tian did not give them any strength, and Dongfang Yue was still an ordinary person. However, Zhu Tian liked how ordinary they were, because ordinary people wouldn't be able to last long, and after that, they would start begging for mercy. And Zhu Tian liked how exciting they were when they were begging for mercy. Of course, there was also his sister-in-law, Qing Yutong, who was in the crowd. Brother-in-law is going to act cool again. Big sister will never be able to see brother-in-law act cool again in this lifetime. Chapter 413. Zhu Qingxian and Hong Tai's gaze became serious. Sky Teacher and the others were the same. They really came. So few people. They aren't even enough to fill the gaps between our teeth. Hong Yi laughed. He didn't feel scared at all. It wasn't only Hong Yi who thought so, the others were the same as well. Hong Xing looked at the group of people and said disdainfully, there is one more woman than men, and there is also a little girl. Uncle, what kind of group is this? Are they here to make a joke? But these women are incomparably beautiful. Hong Yi interrupted. This caused the surrounding people to start sizing up the group of people. Indeed, they are not bad. Your Majesty, that woman seems to be Marquis Lord's woman, Zi Shan. Shi Hongliang noticed Zi Shan and whispered into the emperor's ear. Zhu Qingxian said coldly, no matter who they are, those who are standing over there are all enemies. Your Honor, what do you think? Zhu Qingxian asked respectfully. Hong Tai thought that they were some big shots, but they were just some random people. He didn't even notice any Jizun among them. After all, he had seen 70% to 80% of the Jizun. Although he hadn't seen the rest of them before, they definitely wouldn't have the same attitude as these people. Especially the man who was smoking at the very front. Why did he look like he was asking for a beating? Your Majesty, don't worry, these people don't even need me to do anything, I reckon that they will be scared away soon. It was normal for Hong Tai to have this kind of feeling, because he didn't sense the aura of these people at all. Then, there were only two possibilities. First, these people were all monsters that were stronger than him. Second, they used some kind of method to conceal their aura in order to intimidate him. The first possibility was definitely impossible. How could these 15 people all be stronger than him? Therefore, there was only the second possibility left. They used some kind of superior method to conceal their aura. Hearing what Jizun said, Zhu Qingxian felt relieved. However, he still asked, Your Honor, they still have 3 corpse Kuan. They are merely corpse Kuan, there is nothing to fear. This time, Zhu Qingxian was completely relieved. However, Sky Teacher who was at the side was worried. This matter isn't that simple. However, when Hong Tai looked at Yi Zizi, his gaze was a little curious. He felt as if he had seen this little girl somewhere before. She looks very similar, but her outer appearance is different. He thought to himself that he was thinking too much. Those people were all killed a few years ago, how could they appear again? Yi Zizi was indeed different from before, especially when it came to her image. Today, Yi Zizi was wearing a cute lowly outfit. She was wearing a lace black dress, mesh stockings, and a pair of small children's shoes. Her hair was tied with a big bow, and she looked like a lowly. She was also holding a small bag in her hand. She didn't look like she was here to fight, but to shop. However, it was precisely because of this attire that Hong Tai dispelled his doubts. He only felt that they looked alike. If Yi Zizi was still the same as before, this Hong Tai would definitely run away without saying a word. Yi Hua's side was standing in a very orderly manner. His sister-in-law, Qing Yutong, would naturally have to stand by her brother-in-law's side, and by her side would be the 4 people from the 7 deadly sins, and after that would be the rest of the people. Everyone knew that today was an important day, and thus, they were especially meticulous when choosing their attire. After all, they mustn't throw away His Honor's face. The men were dressed in suits and leather shoes, and the women were all in gowns. There were deep V's, revealing backs, shoulders, etc. Anyway, there were all kinds of revealing. With this kind of attire, it looked like he was attending a ball and not going to bathe the imperial city in blood. However, this also meant that everyone's mentality was very good, and they were very relaxed. There are quite a lot of people here. Yi Hua looked at the 1 million soldiers in front of him and muttered. It has been a long time since I have seen such a scene, I truly miss it. Your Honor, do you want to take action now? Wei Chang said in a low voice. Yi Hua said indifferently while smoking a cigarette, Don't be anxious, let's have fun today. At the same time that I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to give them hope, I am also going to give them despair. According to the previous routine, I will start killing without saying anything, it will be simple and straightforward. However, I will also lose a lot of interesting things. For example, in a situation where they thought that they were going to win, I will ruthlessly slap them in the face. Compared to the former, that kind of despair is much more interesting. Lai Gu asked curiously, then, what is hope? Zhu Tian said indifferently, right now, they are in the midst of hope. They think that just because we have fewer people, they will be able to defeat us easily. Lai Gu revealed out an expression of understanding. Yi Hua went into a slight daze. Is that so? I was still thinking of other methods just now, and I didn't expect that Zhu Tian would be able to see through my intentions. This is truly not bad. Let them feel despair first. A trace of an arc appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth as he flicked the cigarette in his hand. The remaining half of the cigarette flew into the air and made a muffled sound like firecrackers exploding. Sparks scattered in the air. Everyone looked up, not knowing what the other party meant. He didn't even know what the other party's intentions were. This guy sure knows how to act cool, Hong Yi laughed in a low voice. Trying to act cool in front of my father. You're really digging your own grave. Chapter 4:14. Even a god would panic when faced with an unknown species, let alone an unknown object that was giving off such a strong pressure. This made everyone's scalp go numb. Your Honor, just what is this thing? Zhu Qingxuan's natural state from just a moment ago was completely gone, and his expression was one of nervousness. Wave after wave of pressure caused people to be unable to breathe. Hong Tai said indifferently, it should be some kind of powerful creature. Hong Yi and Hong Xing, who were standing at the back, seemed very normal. After all, they were the children of Supremes. They were born with a kind of immunity, as if nothing in this world could do anything to them. Some kind of creature. Zhu Qingxian murmured. The Taoist master's slightly narrowed eyes suddenly widened. This situation seemed to be described in an ancient book. The appearance of this creature brought destruction and rebirth. Its biggest characteristic was that one could feel the deep fear even before it appeared. That was a giant beast from the prehistoric times. Inferno Nether Dragon. Once this dragon appeared, not even a blade of grass would grow. This should be the Inferno Abyssal Dragon. The Celestial Master said in a deep voice. Zhu Qingxuan's expression changed drastically. The Inferno Abyssal Dragon shouldn't have appeared in Heaven's palace. Heavenly Master, are you mistaken? Zhu Qingxian questioned because this was simply impossible. The Celestial Master shook his head. If the ancient book was not wrong, this was the characteristic of the Inferno Abyssal Dragon. Zhu Qingxian gasped for air, then turned to Jizun and asked, Your Honor, this raging Inferno Nether Dragon. Of course I have heard of the raging Inferno Hades Dragon. This dragon is a prehistoric beast, and also an overlord of the prehistoric world. But don't worry, I can still deal with a raging Inferno Hades Dragon. Hong Tai said it casually, but his heart was a little heavy. Because the other party could actually order the Inferno Abyssal Dragon. This was simply unimaginable. All prehistoric beasts had their own majesty. How could they bend their bodies and listen to someone? Unless this was not the Inferno Abyssal Dragon at all. The temperature of the air was gradually rising. Zhu Qingxuan's forehead was covered in fine beads of sweat. The Celestial Master, Che Hongliang, and the others beside him were the same. Not to mention the millions of soldiers below. Their sweat had already soaked their armor, and even the sweat had flowed to the blades in their hands. After which, the sweat dripped onto the ground, causing fine dust to rise. Suddenly, 3 black dots appeared in the sky. They looked very small, like mosquitoes, but everyone was sure that this terrifying aura was coming from those 3 black dots. As the black dot got closer and closer, everyone could not help but gasp. The sage's mind was already buzzing. They really are Inferno Abyssal Dragons, and there are 3 of them. Zhu Qingxian looked towards Shizun. Your Honor, can you deal with 3 inferno abyssal dragons? Nonsense, my father, don't talk about 3. Even if 30 of them come, I will still slay them with my sword. Behind him, Hong Yi spoke up for his father. This emperor really didn't know how to speak. He actually dared to question his father's strength. Hong Xing was even more disdainful. Isn't it just a 3-headed dragon? My father will be chopped into minced meat in a matter of minutes. Isn't that right, father? Hong Tai revealed a confident smile. Of course. Although this inferno abyssal dragon is powerful, it is nothing in my eyes. When Hong Yi and Hong Xing heard this, their faces were filled with pride. You trash were actually scared to this extent by a 3-headed dragon. Father will show you what true strength is. However, if someone were to observe carefully, they would notice that the current Hong Tai was very solemn. That expression just now was just an act. And these 2 children were also deceiving their father with their strength. However, this was also normal. They were spoiled and thought that their father was invincible. However, there were a lot of species that not even Jizun could afford to offend. Just like what Hong Tai said just now, he could still force back 1 inferno abyssal dragon, but now, there were 3 inferno abyssal dragon. There was no longer any suspense. However, Hong Tai did not cower. If the enemies were to know that there was an Jizun protecting them, they would definitely not dare to make a move. Jizun was protected by a treaty. Jizun was not allowed to kill each other. With such a powerful backing, Hong Tai was not afraid in the slightest. However, I have already bragged about it. How am I going to deal with these 3 inferno abyssal dragons? If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have brought them along. As the 3 inferno abyssal dragons approached, the air seemed to be boiling. However, if one were to look down from the sky, wherever the 3 inferno abyssal dragons passed through was instantly scorched. Every time they flapped their wings, the ground would turn into a sea of fire. There were even huge cracks on the ground. Along the way, they passed by 2 cities and a sect. Right now, the sect had already turned into a raging inferno. And this was just the flapping of those wide wings, and such a terrifying outcome was already created. This was unheard of. Roar! The 3 inferno abyssal dragons' roars gathered together, instantly causing the sky to tremble. Even the heaven and earth had turned into a sea of crimson red. How could an army of 1,000,000 withstand the roars of the inferno abyssal dragons? Their eardrums instantly exploded. Their skin felt as if it was being burned by the high temperature. Blisters had already appeared on their skin. However, this dragon roar was just the 3 inferno abyssal dragons expressing their allegiance to the Supreme Sovereign, or perhaps they were saying, the Supreme Sovereign is the Supreme Sovereign. Imperial translation, Little Brother is here. Who does the Supreme Jizun want to deal with? When the inferno abyssal dragons entered the battlefield, the flames on their bodies were gradually absorbed into their skin. At a glance, these 3 inferno abyssal dragons looked exactly the same. The dragon scales on their bodies were like iron and magma, completely red. Their eyes were like blazing suns, looking down at the common people. When those blood-red wings spread out, they were 1,000 meters long. The 3 inferno abyssal dragons looked like they wanted to cover the entire sky. On the other hand, the inferno abyssal dragons seemed a bit small. And when those ancient beasts sensed the aura emitted by the inferno abyssal dragons, they all lowered their heads and submitted. Those in the sky even directly fell down and laid on the ground motionlessly. No matter how much their masters scolded them, they did not have any reaction. The only reaction they had was that their entire bodies were trembling. Everyone on the city wall looked at the gigantic dragons in front of them and did not know what to say. Even Hong Yi and Hong Xing, who had always been arrogant, were shocked by the size of the inferno abyssal dragons. This was the first time that they had seen such a gigantic dragon. If we are able to ride on the back of the Inferno Abyssal Dragons, how awesome would that be? The 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragons slowly landed on the ground, raising up a cloud of dust. Everyone felt threatened. Is this the main force of the Inferno Abyssal Dragons? If it is, then we have no chance of winning at all. We can only hope that the Jizun is here. Hong Tai was also pondering. This is most likely the entire strength of the Inferno Abyssal Dragons. This is indeed not bad, very strong. However, something surprising happened. The 3 dragons actually hugged each other, and their gigantic dragon tails intersected above their heads, forming a platform. Yi Hua and the others instantly appeared on the platform. At this moment, they were truly able to look down on the entire imperial city, as well as that despicable deity. Yi Hua materialized an ordinary wooden chair and slowly sat on it, then lit up a cigarette and said, Chapter 4:15. Won't harm you all. Everyone became speechless. Won't harm anyone. You're lying with your eyes wide open. Although everyone thought so in their hearts, no one dared to say it out, because the scene in front of them was really something that was hard to see even once in 10,000 years. The prehistoric beast Inferno Abyssal Dragon was actually hugging onto the other party like an obedient baby. Its legs were supporting its huge body, and its claws were tightly holding onto the other party's body. How sharp were the claws of the Inferno Abyssal Dragon? The scene was enough to prove that the claws directly pierced through the other party's indestructible dragon scales and pierced into the other party's flesh. Bright red blood flowed out from the wound, but this was only to hold the other party's body in place. Everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them. They didn't know what words to use to describe the scene in front of them. Just who are those people on top of the dragon? Just who are they? Hong Tai laughed lightly. I thought that the other party would directly attack us, but it turns out that the other party didn't even have the intention to do so. From the looks of it, the other party also knows of my existence, which is why they didn't dare to act rashly. Lord Father, your prestige has frightened them. Hong Yi revealed out a confident smile. Apart from being shocked, he also felt fortunate that he was born in Sovereign's family. Hong Tai said faintly, I am naturally able to suppress them. Emperor, you should be at ease now, right? At ease. Right now, Zhu Qingxian had placed all of his hopes on Sovereign. Seems like Sovereign is still very afraid of me. If not, why didn't such a powerful prehistoric beast attack us? Yi Hua expressed, what do you know? Do you know what is called acting cool? You all are standing on top of the city wall, while I am sitting on top of the dragon. The difference between us is immediately pulled apart. In actuality, all of these are just small scenes. However, being able to admire the astonished expressions of those deities, Yi Hua felt rather comfortable in his heart. What I did in the past was wrong. I had to do this every time before attacking, and my status would instantly rise. Thinking about how I stood on top of Lai Gu in the past, Yi Hua felt very low. A bone standing on top of another bone, that scene is truly a bit unsightly. Those are all dark history that must be erased. Qing Yutong stood at her brother-in-law's side, and she felt that compared to the time when she went to Ying family, these people were all high and mighty deities, and brother-in-law was able to suppress the arrogance of these people just by casually bringing 3 dragons over. However, the purpose of summoning 3 giant dragons was just to build a high platform. What a pretentious act. No wonder he was her brother-in-law, who had the syndrome of acting cool after smoking. He was standing next to her. Her sister and Baiji were so stupid that they missed this scene twice in a row. If you are here, you can think whatever you want. With brother-in-law's temperament, he will still spoil you. You guys just have to go against brother-in-law. This baby is much smarter. I really love brother-in-law. Moi, little sister-in-law will give you a spanking ing. I reckon that if Yihua were to ask Qin Yutong to come and serve him in his bed right now, Qin Yutong would probably get off in an instant. Using Qin Yutong's words, in this lifetime, it would be fine as long as you hug onto brother-in-law's thigh, and don't worry about anything else. And when Qin Yutong's system saw this scene, it was also intoxicated. He could brag about this for the rest of his life in the system world. 7 deadly sins were already used to it, but I feel that it is different from before. His honor's way of handling things is more detailed. Tang Wei, Sun Fang, and the 3 celebrities were also very shocked. However, they quickly controlled their emotions. After all, they had experienced the incident at Ying family. However, the Green and Red brothers were completely in a state of shock. This scene is too mystical to the point that they feel as if they are dreaming. It was normal for the 2 brothers to have this kind of thought. Some things need to be digested slowly. Facing such a big scene, the Green and Red brothers were still a bit unable to control themselves. This time, Yihua had also planned to let these newcomers experience the world. It would be beneficial for them in the future. Zishan, who was in the group, seemed to be calm, but in her heart, she was very excited. The people below her were all members of the royal family, and in front of them, I am completely unable to raise my head. Furthermore, I was even forcefully brought into the harem by Ho Xuelin. To a woman who had no one to rely on, this was the most sorrowful thing. Provoking the royal family was equivalent to committing suicide. However, even the royal family that was high and mighty in the past was currently looking at her while trembling with fear. This kind of feeling is incomparable. Zishan secretly took a peek at his honor, who was sitting on the wooden chair. All of this is bestowed upon me by this man. In Zishan's heart, his honor is a complicated person. Sometimes, it seems like he cares about others, but the way he cares about others is indeed very strange. Take me and Yi Hong for example, after all kinds of deaths, after all kinds of touching, and finally, together with me. Thinking back to the beginning, it seems like his honor had already planned everything from the very beginning. Those restrictions of distance, restrictions of time, and me and Yi Hong were firmly controlled by him. His honor is truly a man who is neither good nor evil. It is fortunate that I did not get fancied by him. Being together with this kind of man is very stressful. I truly admire those 2 madams. In the end, Yi Hong is still the best. Although she is a bit foolish, she is sincere towards me and cares for me in every possible way. This point alone is enough. Yihua suddenly thought of something and slapped onto the armrest of the chair. This caused the heart of Yihua's subordinate to sink. It can't be that Yihua is unsatisfied with something, right? Yihua immediately bowed down to express his apology. This action of Yihua's caused the people below to be dumbfounded. What is going on? Lord Father, look, all of their faces are filled with fear. Hong Xing laughed in a low voice. This scene caused everyone to laugh. Hong Yi laughed, they are definitely frightened by Lord Father. Hong Tai remained silent. The man who was sitting down just now seemed to have said something, and then, the people around him became terrified. This meant one thing. These subordinates of his are either extremely fearful of him, or extremely respectful of him. In actuality, it is both. Yihua let out a light sigh. I forgot to bring Ollie over, this is a rare opportunity. I wanted to temper my subordinates, but I forgot to temper my child. Ollie is almost 3 years old, it is about time for her to experience such a scene. Your Honor, subordinate can go and bring little Honor over. Wei Chang said respectfully. The people at the side let out a sigh of relief. I thought that his honor was going to flip out, but it turns out that it was because of little honor. Yihua wrinkled his brows, seemingly considering whether or not it would work. Zhu Tian said respectfully, Your Honor, for you to go and fetch little honor, this is out of a father's longing for his child, and it does not mean that your honor has admitted defeat. What Zhu Tian said is right, it is perfectly normal for your honor to want to see his child. Furthermore, it has been half a month since your honor last saw little honor. I reckon that little honor misses your honor a lot. Wei Chang persuaded lightly. When a husband and wife quarrel, the child is the most pitiful. Yihua missed Ali a lot too. It has been more than a month since he last saw Ali, and wasn't it all because of those two foolish women? Wei Chang, go and fetch the child over. Tell him that I miss my child, and that I will bring the child over to stay with me for a week. After that, I will send the child back. For the sake of teaching his daughter such a lesson, Yihua took the initiative to go and fetch the child. Chapter 4:16. Speak properly. Yihua instructed. Everyone smiled in their hearts. His honor truly has a sharp mouth but a sponge's heart. In actuality, even though his honor wanted to die, he just couldn't let go of his face. Wei Chang's disappearance made the people on the deity's side very puzzled. Why did one of the deities suddenly leave? What is he doing? He couldn't have scared one away, right? Hong Yi sneered. I haven't even started fighting, and one of the deities was already scared away. Hong Xing laughed, he only scared one away. I thought that he would scare everyone away. All right, the two of you, speak less and observe the situation more. Hong Tai reprimanded gravely. These two children have been spoiled by their mother, they don't even have the slightest bit of eyesight. Are the deities planning to leave? It is evident that they are preparing for something. Seeing that their father suddenly got angry, Hong Yi and Hong Xing didn't dare to speak anymore. Emperor, let your army retreat first. Even if they were to go up there, it would be a waste of time. Hong Tai said faintly. When one's strength has reached this level, the army would no longer be of any use. Zhu Qingxian thought so too, just that without Ji's order, he didn't dare to retreat the army, if not, the deities would misunderstand. Yihua didn't say anything as he watched the deity's army retreat. After all, I have to get rid of the deity's main force first. There is still a Ji who participated in the encirclement and annihilation operation back then. Some enmity, I still have to take revenge. My luck sure is not bad. Within Voidless Realm. The Empress moved. Wang Feng was burned down by her daughter, causing Donghuang Baiji to feel both angry and helpless. Yihua could only choose another mountain to be the king's palace. The reconstruction work was still in progress. Within these 2 months, 2 vicious incidents had happened, causing Donghuang Baiji to feel very depressed. Thinking about it, Voidless Realm was peaceful in the past, but ever since I met Yihua again, bad things happened one after another. I am truly an unlucky fellow. Within the courtyard, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji sat in a pavilion and rested. These few days, they have been very busy, and now, they can finally rest. Meanwhile, Donghuang Li was hiding not far away and was secretly observing her mother's expression. Knowing that she had done something bad, Donghuang Li was scared to death, scared that her mother would smack her butt. Qingye sipped the tea and said, Baiji, Ali is still young, don't blame her. She is already almost 3 years old, she is still young. Don't bother about her, let her know her mistake, and in the future, she won't act recklessly. Donghuang Baiji said petulantly. Ever since her daughter started following Yihua, her daughter's personality had somewhat changed. He used to be such a well-behaved child. Look at him now, he even knows how to fight. What would happen when he grew up? Wouldn't he take off? Qingye laughed involuntarily. If you want to blame someone, blame Yihua, for indiscriminately teaching a child. I also want to blame him, but he didn't come. Donghuang Baiji pouted her mouth. You can go back and admit your mistake. Then let's go together. Qingye rolled her eyes at Donghuang Baiji, then flicked her hair. I'm not going back to apologize. I won't go back either. After hearing what Chinya said, Chinya smiled helplessly. Rubbing onto her bulging tummy, I feel that this is not bad. Although Yihua isn't by my side, at least my son is by my side. With a "bye" sound, Wei Chang's figure appeared. Hello, lady boss. Wei Chang bowed slightly and said respectfully. Seeing that Wei Chang suddenly appeared, to be honest, Chinya and Dong Huang Baiji felt delighted in their hearts. Yihua definitely wants face, so he didn't come and asked his subordinate to come down and fetch him. Should I agree to it or not? TSK, he doesn't have any sincerity at all. Dong Huangli, who was hiding at the side, also felt delighted in her heart. I feel that Uncle Wei didn't come to fetch her mom, but rather, he came to fetch me. Hurry up and fetch Ollie, if not, Ollie is going to be frozen to death by her mom. Wei Chang, what's the matter? Chinya put on a straight face and asked while putting on an act. Right now, Chinya was thinking if she should give Yihua a way out of this embarrassing situation. Wei Chang said with a slight smile, Lady boss, the boss misses you too a lot. Wei Chang. I want to kill you. When did I ever say such a thing? In actuality, Wei Chang was just following his honor's instructions. Sure enough, upon hearing their husband's inner thoughts, Chinya and Dong Huang Baiji's beautiful faces gradually loosened up, and a trace of redness could even be seen on their faces. To actually let his subordinate pass on such a message, Yihua, you are too shameless. Looking at the expressions of the two madams, Wei Chang felt that he had more or less paved the way. However, his honor misses the child even more. Chinya, Dong Huang Baiji, Wei Chang was clearly here to bring the child back, not to bring them back. The favorable impression that just sprouted within Dong Huang Baiji and Dong Huang Baiji immediately disappeared. Uncle Wei, Ollie misses daddy too. Dong Huangli immediately knew that her daddy was thinking of her. Dong Huangli immediately ran out and jumped onto Wei Chang's body. Dong Huangli refused to let go of Wei Chang's body and even said in a low voice, Uncle Wei, quickly bring Ollie away, mommy's temper has been very bad recently. Looking at her daughter's reaction, Dong Huang Baiji couldn't help but sigh. The child that I raised painstakingly is now even more clingy to daddy. Lady boss, the boss said that he will bring Ollie back to play for a week, and after that, he will send her back. Wei Chang explained. He discovered that your wife who had a rosy complexion just a moment ago suddenly became ice cold. This change in personality is too fast. Did I say something wrong just now? Chinya did not say anything. After all, Li was Dong Huang Baiji's child. Although Yihua was angry, it had been a long time since he took care of his child. Recently, Voidless Realm was very busy, and I can't take care of my child. Alright then. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. Wei Chang said with a smile, Lady boss, you can be at ease. With the boss taking care of your child, nothing will happen. Dong Huangli nodded her head vigorously. Dong Huang Baiji nodded her head helplessly. Lady boss, do you have any message that you want me to pass on? Wei Chang asked. He felt that there was a need to pass on his wife's longing back. Chinya said faintly, no. Dong Huang Baiji said the same as well, no. Alright, subordinate will return first then. After finished speaking, Wei Chang disappeared along with Dong Huangli. The two women sighed at the same time, feeling deeply helpless. When Wei Chang returned, only a few minutes had passed. Dong Huangli didn't pay much attention to Yihua, her eyes were completely filled with her father. Dong Huangli pounced onto Yihua and shouted out sweetly, Daddy. After finished speaking, Dong Huangli even kissed onto her father's cheek, expressing how much she missed her father. While hugging onto his daughter, Yihua discovered that his daughter had grown a bit taller and a bit heavier. However, her daughter was still so adorable. A fatherly smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. "Ollie, during this period of time, have you been listening to your mother? Ollie has been very obedient during this period of time, and she didn't give mommy any trouble." Dong Huangli added in her mind. Yi Hua pinched onto the honest little fellow, then said, "Today, Daddy is going to teach Ollie a lesson." Chapter 4:17. Just as Ollie was in a daze, Yi Hua asked faintly, "What is their attitude?" Wei Chang paused for a moment, then said in a low voice, "Your madams miss his honor very much, and they wanted me to pass their message to his honor." If Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji were to hear this, they would definitely go berserk. When did this madam say such words? "Wei Chang, you better explain yourself clearly." After Yi Hua heard what Yi Hua said, he felt great in his heart. At least you all know how to talk. If you all obediently come back and admit your mistake, I will let bygones be bygones. Dong Huangli came back to her senses and thought to herself, Uncle Wei is so smart. Yeah, Mama misses Papa so much. Even in my dreams, I call Papa's name. Dong Huangli wasn't lying, she had indeed called out to Yi Hua. However, she wasn't calling out to Yi Hua intimately. Instead, she was calling out to Yi Hua. "Yi Hua, you bastard." Ha ha ha. Yi Hua suddenly let out a loud laughter of joy. This caused the deities below to be puzzled. Why is he so happy? Could it be that he has gone mad? Actually, the gods down below were quite confused about this situation. That person had suddenly disappeared, and in less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he had returned with a child in his arms. The moment the child appeared, the man was overjoyed. It seemed that the child was very important to him. "Father, this child should be his weakness," Hong Xing said. "If we capture this child, they won't dare to do anything," Hong Yi said. Actually, both of them were expressing their own views and ideas, thinking that this would make their father feel gratified. However, Hong Tai did not praise him at all. "Papa, who are they?" Dong Huangli jumped down from her father's embrace and stood at the edge of the platform that was built at the dragon's tail. Looking down, her legs felt numb. Yi Hua stood up slowly and said faintly, "They are the people who bullied Li's mama." "Is it those people from a few days ago?" Dong Huangli asked curiously. Yi Hua nodded his head. Dong Huangli's cheeks puffed up as she said angrily, "Daddy, they are all bad people, and they wanted to beat mommy up. It is fortunate that Li chased them away, so Papa came here today to avenge Li and Mama." Yes, Li also wants to vent for Mama. Yi Hua was very happy with his daughter's attitude. "Fortunately, I didn't follow their temperament." Yi Hua raised his hand, indicating to Wei Chang that he could start. Wei Chang coldly stared at the gods in front of him and shouted, "Which one of you can be in charge?" All the gods sucked in a breath of cold air. It was finally here. Zhu Qingxian glanced at the supreme being beside him. The latter said lightly, "Speak. I'm the Emperor of Heaven's Sanctum." "Who are you?" Zhu Qingxian shouted. Wei Chang shouted out, "His honor is here to settle the score, call your crown prince out." Sure enough, it was because of the crown prince. Zhu Qingxian said in a low voice, "Supreme being, it's possible that this supreme being is also interested in the bloodline of Dong Huang and Nuwa, and wants to kill my son to vent his anger. Don't worry, I'm here. They wouldn't dare to do anything to you." Hong Tai said indifferently. "Even if I were to die, Yi Hua wouldn't do anything to me." Zhu Qingxian called out, "What crime did he commit, please tell me." Yi Hua indicated to Wei Chang to back down, then said in a low voice, "What's the matter? He even dares to take liberties with this sovereign's woman, you guys are so daring. Didn't you still kill hundreds of my sons? Zhu Qingxian can't accept this, just because I took liberties with your woman, you want to kill my sons. Yi Hua sneered, what does it have to do with you that I killed your sons? Everyone present went into an uproar. I've seen unreasonable people before, but I've never seen someone this unreasonable. You killed someone else's son, and you still say that it has nothing to do with you. What does it have to do with me? Meanwhile, Zhu Qingxian was quite angered by Yi Hua's words. Killing my sons, and you still say that it has nothing to do with me. This is too arrogant. Your Honor, you have to uphold justice for me. Zhu Qingxian could only seek help from the Supreme Being beside him. This person is too arrogant, and I don't have any way to deal with him. Hong Tai nodded his head, then slowly rose into the sky and stood at the same height as Yi Hua. Which Supreme Being are you? Hong Tai asked gravely. You want to interfere with my matters? Yi Hua asked faintly. Hong Tai didn't expect the other party to not give him any face. In that case, he didn't need to give him any face either. Since I am protecting them, I naturally have to interfere with their matters. That Crown Prince took liberties with Supreme Being's woman, he is indeed in the wrong, but Supreme Being, you have also killed the Emperor's 100 sons, so we should be even, right? Hong Tai still wanted to retreat without a fight. After all, these 3 inferno abyssal dragons were no joke. Yi Hua wished that he could kill this Supreme Being right now. However, if he were to kill this Supreme Being right now, they would no longer have any hope. I might as well let them fantasize for a while longer. That was merely a warning notice. To think that you lowly deities would dare to provoke my woman, you must be thinking that your lives are too smooth, right? What do you want then? Hong Tai said coldly. Yi Hua said faintly, kill. Daddy, you can do it, the little fellow cheered for her father. Those who are standing in front of her father are all bad people. Hong Tai took a look at Dong Huangli and began thinking about how to avoid a fight. How about this, we will send out our subordinates to fight one-on-one, the best of 3. If we win, you all will retreat. If you all win, I will retreat. Towards Hong Tai's suggestion, Yi Hua felt that it was feasible. Although the situation is one-sided, I still have to give them a chance of survival. Sure. Hong Tai nodded his head, then landed on the ground and began discussing with the Emperor about who to send out to fight. Meanwhile, Yi Hua looked at his subordinates and asked faintly, which one of you wants to go and have a try? Daddy, Ollie wants to go. Dong Huangli was very proactive, but Yi Hua didn't plan to let his daughter go. Today, his daughter will just watch, there is no need for her to care about anything else. Seeing that her daddy wasn't paying attention to her, Dong Huangli pouted her mouth. Your Honor, subordinate is willing to fight for your honor. Tang Wei slowly walked out and said while bowing. With just a bow, Wei Chang's breasts were all white. This is a strapless gown, Wei Chang sure is lucky. Alright, don't disappoint me. Yi Hua said faintly. Yes. After finished speaking, Tang Wei jumped down from the cliff. She looked just like a superwoman. Of course, when Tang Wei landed on the ground. With a boom, the ground beneath her feet instantly cracked open, and a shockwave spread out. This way of entering the stage is very cool. Yi Hua couldn't help but nod his head, then said to Wei Chang, you taught me well. Thank you, Your Honor, for your praise. Wei Chang felt that he had gained a lot of face. Lai Goose secretly negotiated with his 3 wives. Later on, I have to seize the opportunity to properly perform in front of his honor. With that, I will be able to receive his honor's praise as well. Look at that smug look on Wei Chang's face. Due to the millions of soldiers retreating, a very large empty space was left behind. The appearance of Tang Wei made the gods feel disdain. Chapter 4:18. The Hong brothers who were on top of the city wall had deep contempt on their faces. Does the other party not have anyone else, or did they send a woman out to die? What a pity for such a beautiful woman. Her clothes are truly very alluring when she wears them, so big, so deep. Emperor, who do you want to send out? Hong Tai asked. This was the best way to avoid a battle. After all, these 3 inferno abyssal dragons were not to be trifled with. Father, why don't you let your son go out to fight? Hong Yi, who was at the side, asked. If I don't show my face in such a situation, it doesn't seem right. I can also let others see my strength. Hong Tai still didn't know what his son wanted to do, he just wanted to be in the limelight. Father, your son is also willing to go out to fight. Hong Xing cupped his hands and said. As the child of an overlord, he enjoyed different treatment from the moment he was born. Right now, he could be said to be half a step into the ranks of overlords. If he is fast, in less than 10,000 years, there will be 2 overlords. This is simply rushing to die. Tang Wei is just a girl, she is easy to bully. If Wei Chang didn't have any confidence, would he let Tang Wei go out to fight? To put it bluntly, even if Tang Wei fought against an overlord, she would still have some chance of winning. Therefore, to say that Tang Wei went out to fight was obviously bullying. The reason why Hong Tai couldn't see through the strength of Yi Hua and the others was because everyone was stronger than him. This was something that he didn't expect. Although the 7 sins all addressed Yi Hua as a supreme overlord, Yi Hua wasn't very clear about his own strength. If one were to insist on an explanation, the current 7 sins were all supreme overlords, and I am already above them. Because I don't have any other titles, I can only call them supreme overlord. Back then, the 7 sins were able to team up against all the overlords, which meant that they already had the strength of an overlord. Needless to say, their strength had already reached an abnormal level. However, Wei Chang was able to easily create a supreme overlord team. Just like the Green and Red brothers, they instantly leveled up from 0 to 100. Therefore, you don't even know what kind of team you are facing, this is a team that is using a cheating device. If you don't give face, Tang Wei alone is enough. The current Tang Wei was no longer that immature university student. Facing such a scene, she was completely able to stay calm. Yi Hua also saw this, he hoped that everyone in the team would be able to take charge, that way, he would be able to relax a bit. He was suspected of slacking off. At this moment, Zhu Qingxian was hesitating about who to send out. Although Jizun's son had requested to fight, Jizun did not respond. It seemed like she wanted to see how strong the other party was. Tang Wei stood on the vast plain. Although her delicate body seemed petite, she gave off an extraordinary feeling. For a woman to be able to have such an attitude in such an occasion, the other party was impressed, but also felt that it was a pity. Who dares to fight with me? Tang Wei shouted coldly. This is my first time performing in front of his honor, I definitely cannot make any mistakes. Losing face for myself is a small matter, but losing face for his honor is a big matter. Therefore, not only did they have to win, they had to win cleanly. Everyone heard this shout clearly, and the deities' faces darkened. They were actually being looked down upon by a woman. Your Majesty, allow me. A handsome man walked out from the sex group. He wore a simple white robe and didn't wear any decorations. He seemed fresh and refined, as if he didn't belong to the secular world. Zhu Qingxuan's lips curled into a smile. Then I'll have to trouble sect master. Your Majesty is too polite. It is the duty of us cultivators to eradicate evil. Wen Lu seemed to be extremely respectful, but don't be fooled by this kind of facade. Although he seemed to be respectful to the emperor, it was obvious that he wanted to show off in front of Jizun and obtain a good impression of him. Zhu Qingxian was overjoyed. Good. This emperor will wait here for sect master Wen's triumphant return. Wen Lu will definitely do his best. After he finished speaking, he leaped and flew towards Tang Wei. The Hong brothers pouted their mouths. He really knows how to flatter. Lightly landing on the ground, Wenlu carefully sized up the woman in front of him. In terms of appearance, this woman was a rare beauty, but from her clothes, she didn't seem to be very powerful, just like those women in the brothels. But from her aura, she could be considered a heroine among women. Wenlu, Mountain Sea sect master. Tang Wei paused for a moment. Do I have to say this in a fight? However, I do have to announce my name on TV. Tang Wei, Longtan University's fourth-year student. Tang Wei could only say this. His honor didn't establish any sect, and he doesn't have a position either. Uncle Wei has a position, one of the 7 sins. Wenlu was a bit surprised. This girl is actually just a student, and I am the sect master. Even if I win, my face won't be glorious. Ha, this woman is still a student, seems like the other party doesn't have many people. Hong Yi continued to mock the other party. The surrounding royal family members were speechless. This person is relying on the fact that his father is Shizun, he is insufferably arrogant, and has never suffered a loss before. Only after suffering a loss will you know that the cruelty of the world is not something that you can understand. Yihua carried his daughter and sat back onto the wooden chair, then asked, how many moves do you think Tang Wei will need to win? This is hard to say. Little Green, tell me. Yihua asked. Big Brother Green was terrified. How would I know? I can only guess, replying to your honor, 3 moves should be enough. Lai Gu, tell me. Yihua continued to ask. Lai Gu rubbed onto his chin and said lightly, your honor, 2 moves. Aunt Tang, 1 move should be enough. Dong Huangli, who was in Yihua's embrace, suddenly said. Dong Huangli seemed to be very confident in Tang Wei. Yihua rubbed onto his daughter's head. Wei Chang, what do you think? What your honor said is very true, 1 move should be enough. Ali said that Aunt Tang is very formidable. Dong Huangli said happily. Daddy, hurry up and praise Ali. Ali is already prepared. Yihua said indifferently, that's good, if you still want to use 2 moves, I will have to criticize you. Wei Chang bowed slightly, indicating that your honor is worrying too much. If those deities were to hear the conversation between Yihua and Yihua, they would definitely say that Yihua was boasting shamelessly. That is the famous sect master Wen, his strength is incomparably formidable, and if he were to cultivate for another 10,000 years, he would definitely become another powerful Jizun. You actually said 3 moves, 2 moves. Even 1 move. Where did your confidence come from? Sect Master Wen should be able to deal with Tang Wei in 1 move. On the stage, Wenlu took out his weapon. Wenlu's weapon was a very thin long sword that looked like an embroidery needle. However, the moment this weapon appeared, a powerful fluctuation immediately gushed out from it, causing the sky to change color and the clouds to surge. This is Pear Blossom, an ancient godly artifact. Bring out your weapon. After finished speaking, the aura coming out from Wenlu's body completely exploded out, and his eyes became as deep as the stars. It was as if he was the supreme being under the common people, and everyone else was just an ant. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.